at this very moment, everyone's trying to update their game, causing EA app to go into overload. EA app is not really working properly, so pretty much like any other day, except it's a bit worse because the new Infant update is out. Like the traffic jam is more serious than the traffic jam during a rush hour in London, and the EA app, it just can't handle it. And this is a company that might want to do online multiplayer for The Sims 5. Let that sink in. Now listen, I had no problem with it because I had already had my app running by the time the update was coming out. But if you guys didn't update your game yet, by the time that you're watching this video, you should probably be fine. Also, there is no creator network here. As some of you might know, I'm not really good enough for them. First of all, when you try and put on clothes on your infants, they just move way too much. Now I understand it's supposed to be so that we can see their clothes properly, because they're kind of sitting down, so you can't really see their pants necessarily. But they really do move way too much. Now, I'm not a fashion expert, but I am a Sims 4 fashion expert. And I can already tell that we're following a trend of more clothes for ladies and less for crawling gentlemen. I also like these glasses, as well as these new birthmarks. Now these should supposedly fade with time as your sim gets older. Now if that works, it's amazing for customization, it's amazing for storytelling, story progression, all of that. It's pretty cool if it works, if you ask me, and if it works. There's 6 traits for infants. We have cautious, sensitive, calm, intent, wiggly, and sunny. Just like with toddlers and children, we can only really select one trait. For aspirations, there are none. But I do feel like that's realistic, just because in real life, the only goal an infant will really have is just to, just to survive. There are quite a few new items that came with this update. There is a really nice selection of cribs. There is also this new toddler bed that you can upgrade to a crib. So I guess if your sim has like a couple or more children, younger ones can inherit their siblings' toddler bed and you can turn it into a crib for them. It would be nice though if this went vice versa as well, so that you can turn crib into toddler bed as well. But they didn't do that. There's a nice selection of toys as well, and of course the inevitable clutter. Now this basket, I can already tell that there will be so many people complaining about the texture of this cute little animal, because let's be real, it's not the best texture, but like from a creative standpoint, I just want to say that this is a pretty creative way of doing the most with what you have. What I think is my favorite object in this update are these little hanging starlights. I can already tell that I'll be using them in my builds kind of a lot. On the flip side though, there are no changing tables. Now look, I knew that this was gonna happen, I just knew it. First of all, it wasn't even shown in the stream, but also it's such a Sims 4 thing to do. Just give us this huge update with the whole new life stage added, but then not include such a small but a very necessary thing like, a new object that could be essential to gameplay. What this makes me think, like intuitively, is that changing tables are considered as one of the key features of this new Growing Together pack, which it's pretty sad. Changing table also strikes me as one of those objects that we might get eventually in the base game, either if enough people complain about it, or once enough people purchase Growing Together expansion pack. It'll be like, okay, so now that you guys bought the changing table, let me give it to you for free. We're starting with a single dad, because justice for gentlemen in The Sims 4. And they also have a dog, just because I wanted to test how infants will work in a household with a dog. Which I will say, right off the bat, interactions between an infant and a dog seem to be working pretty well for me. And the interactions are also pretty cute, especially the sleeping one. Where are skills? This feels like an odd choice, certainly. This is, I feel like, where the confusion between like what's a free update content and what's Growing Together expansion pack content. The whole thing is like a bit confusing, but what else is new? It took around 2 sim hours, or 2 whole minutes in real life, for the first bug to happen. Now, I told my sim to go feed his other infant. So he went outside, placed the infant that he was holding on the ground. Then he went up the stairs to the porch, sat down, got up, went down the stairs, and then finally went to pick up an infant. Frankly, it kind of feels like this whole situation was just way too much for the game to properly translate. I don't think that the game struggles necessarily with the interaction to place an infant in high chair or, well, to feed them there, but I do feel like the game might be struggling with my sim holding an infant and then me giving them an instruction to go and feed another infant. Like, I feel like that's way too complicated for the game to understand, if that makes sense. While on the topic of high chairs, I actually assumed that they might be fixed or at least made better, but I still do have high chair problems in my game, so now they're not only affecting toddlers, but they're affecting my infants as well. For example, animation would be stuck, and my sim would pretty much just stand there. My sim would also just randomly place infants in high chairs. Once I gave my sim instruction to go place an infant in the crib, and my sim first placed her in high chair, and then took her out of the high chair, and then placed her in the crib. Oh my god. And then my dog glitched, and it legit scared me. Gonna pet it so it doesn't possess us. And then he takes an infant out of the crib. Why did you take her out of the crib? Infants do get their own selection of foods, which I think is pretty cool. You can explore which foods your infant likes or dislikes, but I do think that it might be a clue to food likes and dislikes that might be coming in the future, which then leads me to this path of, I don't know, dine out refresh. And I'm going to stop right now because I'm not going to do this to myself. Now is not the time. But my sim would also randomly get interactions to hold an infant, which is fine in itself to an extent, and if you have free will on. However, they kept doing it just way too much, and it was to the point where it got pretty annoying. And I feel like this is an issue with tuning. You know how often Sims get certain interactions autonomously, and how, some interactions happen way too much while others just never happen autonomously. Holding infants is definitely one of those that happens way too much, and it needs to be tuned so that it happens less. Now, my biggest pet peeve of this update is that there aren't any changing tables. So if your infant poops its pants, you have to go and give them a wash in a bathtub. And if you don't have a bathtub, well, and that's just too bad, isn't it? Overall, my first impression of this update is that it's not as bad as I expected it to be, because, my standards for The Sims 4 are pretty low at this point. But I do have to say that the repeating bugs are getting really annoying. It feels like they're piling and piling more things onto a game that can barely handle what already has. So we have bugs like, Sims freezing and just standing there, or Sims not computing interactions properly, interactions just canceling for no reason, or random interactions being added, like, holding an infant 24/7. It just feels like the more content you add, the more prominent and noticeable these are. And I do feel like then, it feels like the game just gets confused and just mixes everything up. And this is really, really bad in a life simulation game, where the whole point is for the game to give you an immersive experience in this virtual world, virtual life. Am I surprised by this? I'm really not.